subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
चिट्ठी आई है चिट्ठी आई है, चिट्ठी आई है चिट्ठी आई है, चिट्ठी आई है वतन से चिट्ठी आई है.
Hey Riya, see this wedding invite. How about planning a visit to India?
Sure, Neel. I love traditional Indian weddings. Fun, food, festivity. I just can't wait to go.
मेहंदी लगा के रखना, डोली सजा के रखना, लेने तुझे ओ गोरी, आएंगे तेरे सजना.
Thank God, we have the visas we took some time ago, which are still valid. Else, going to India at a short notice can be a real challenge.
You know, Neel, I heard someone referring to an OCI card. They say, if you have that, visiting India can be real easy.
Really? Then we need to inquire and learn about the same, Riya.
Well, let me start planning with dresses and jewellery to carry. And Neel, I will need a lot of cash too. I want to do loads of shopping on this trip.
But do you know how much jewelry and cash one can take to India?
Honestly speaking, I have no idea.
How about getting to know about all this and more from our friend, philosopher and guide, Mr. Mukesh Patel.
Hello Mukesh.
Hi.
Welcome to the very first episode of the NRI Show. Our friends Neel and Riya, they are very excited and they have a number of questions for you to answer.
That's fine, Chami. Just assure them that we will take care of all their queries and concerns.
Well, that's great. But before moving to their questions, can I ask you a small question for my own understanding?
Sure.
I often get confused about the terms NRI and PIO. Can you explain their meaning and context?
Certainly. Chami, when we refer to this term NRI, which is an abbreviation for a non-resident Indian, you know, the confusion, as you mentioned, commonly is people think that only Indian citizens who are non-residents should be called as NRIs. Actually, the term NRI is a colloquial term which is used not only for Indian citizens who live abroad or who are settled outside India for purposes of work, business, vocation, or any circumstances that indicate an indefinite stay. But at the same time, it also includes those who are persons of Indian origin. And while NRI means non-resident Indian, a PIO is a person of Indian origin. Now you would ask me, who is a person of Indian origin? Well, according to the provisions of FEMA, a person of Indian origin is a person who at some point of time held Indian citizenship, or who or his father, mother or grandfather, grandmother, you know, were either born in India or held Indian citizenship. Even the spouse of a person of Indian origin is said to be a PIO. So actually the term PIO is quite wide, but we have to understand that this foreign citizenship that we are referring to, person of Indian origin, if he is a citizen of say US or UK or Australia, he would be termed as an NRI. But when we refer to foreign citizenship for purposes of PIO, it does not include citizens of certain listed countries like Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nepal, Bhutan, Afghanistan, Iran and Sri Lanka. So barring these countries, if there are persons of a foreign citizenship who have an Indian linkage, they would all be classified as PIO.
Okay.
So we have to understand once again, to put it brief and clear, an NRI would include those who live outside India for circumstances which I explained, who are Indian citizens or who are persons of Indian origin.
Okay. That makes it crystal clear for me. But now coming to Neel and Riya, they want to know what exactly an OCI card is and how it is helpful to an NRI.
Well, Charmi, let's first understand the meaning of the abbreviation OCI. OCI is an overseas citizen of India. Now, earlier we used to have this concept PIO, and people were issued what is known as a PIO card. But while the NRI community raised the demand for dual citizenship, the government thought that let us try to exceed and accommodate in some way. While the dual citizenship has not been granted in the context of the rights to vote or even the rights to get to a legislative or a constitutional post, almost all rights that are enjoyed by an Indian citizen are sought to be given if you have an OCI registration, Overseas Citizen of India. And an overseas citizen of India would obviously be a foreign national, but who is having his Indian origin. So a person who is a PIO and who is an NRI, he can take this OCI registration because it gives certain distinct benefits. And the benefits, let me explain for the benefit of Neel and Riya. The best advantage of an OCI is you can walk in, walk out of India at your choice, because along with your foreign passport, when you have this OCI registration card, that means the OCI registration certificate, that means you don't need any visa. That grants you a permanent right of entry or residency into India, also allows you to do any work that you wish in India, and more than that, it grants to all NRIs very special privileges which are otherwise given, and you don't need to establish your PIO status because it is admitted and accepted in your OCI registration. So for purposes of education, for purposes of investment, for getting various other financial benefits and privileges, I think this OCI registration would be extremely helpful. And therefore, Charmi, OCI is getting more and more popular. There used to be a time when people of Indian origin, just because they had their foreign passports, if they used to stay in India, say for a period of more than 180 days, 6 months, they had to go to the police station, the nearest police station, and get permission to stay more than 6 months, even if they have a continuing visa.
Oh.
So there were so many hassles and procedural issues, I think the OCI has come to be, which is also popularly referred to as a dual citizenship, has come to be accepted and admitted as a big blessing for all NRIs.
From what you have explained, every NRI must get an OCI card. But is it quite simple to get an OCI card? What is the procedure?
Well, Chami, let me tell you, the OCI registration has been made extremely easy and friendly. The main reason is that you can apply for your OCI registration by registering it on the site ociservices.gov.in, and it's an online application. What has to be attached is very clearly explained. It is extremely user friendly, and once you prepare the application, you have two alternatives. Say you are out of India, then you have to submit it physically to the nearest embassy, high commission or consulate, which is having jurisdiction over where you live, and then they take over from there. If you are in India, then you have to apply to the Ministry of Home Affairs, send your application there, and they would do the processing. Actually, Chami, now this work has also been entrusted to what we know as VFS, the Visa Facilitation Services, and therefore you really don't even need to go all the way to the embassies or consulates. Wherever there are these VFS centers, you can easily submit. Just as you apply for your visas, etc., you can submit these applications. And let me tell you that if all is okay, you can easily get your OCI registration within 30 days.
Okay.
And there used to be a time earlier when, up to the age of 20, it used to be that you had to, apply every time you change your passport for the OCI registration afresh. Why? Because, your facial features, etc., they keep on changing. And above the age of 50 also, you had to apply for a renewal. But just this year, in April 21, the government of India considerably simplified even this, and now for all practical purposes, the OCI registration once done has been made permanent. So you don't have to bother about it.
Wow.
You also need to keep in mind that there are some fees, of course, which are involved, but it's like a one-time affair. $275 US or an equivalent of rupees 15,000, that is to be submitted as your registration fees. But I would say it's worth that cost and that little time and effort, because as we saw earlier, the OCI card can prove to be a huge blessing for you.
You made it so easy to understand, Mukesh. But now Neel and Riya are planning to visit India, and they want to know about the regulations to carry cash and jewellery to India.
Well, Chami, I think they have raised a very important question. And the answer to this should be known not just to them, but to all NRIs who visit India and who are carrying cash, currency, travelers' checks or jewellery with them. The customs regulations in this regard require that whenever you are arriving at any airport or seaport and you are to clear through customs, it is an obligation for every NRI, and not just an NRI, even an Indian resident who is coming from overseas, that if you are having currency notes of more than 5,000 US dollars or equivalent, or in the aggregate $10,000 or more, including currency along with travelers' checks and other banking instruments, you will need to declare this before the customs authorities.
Okay.
Because if you don't do this, it's a technical violation. This is a very important aspect that has to be kept in mind. Secondly, talking about the jewellery regulations as regards customs are concerned, Chami, what needs to be kept in mind is that there is a concept of duty-free allowance which can be enjoyed by NRIs if they have stayed outside India for more than 1 year. On their visit, they can bring along with them up to 40 grams of gold ornaments in case of a lady and 20 grams of gold ornaments in case of a gentleman. Of course, there is a value cap also of 1,50,000 respectively. But this is as far as the duty-free allowance is concerned.
Okay.
So that means if they have this with them and they walk through the green channel, there is no problem. But if they are carrying anything more, like in the case of Neel and Riya, they want to attend a wedding and they are bringing in jewellery and ornaments, which of course is going to be far more valuable, and they have an intention to take it back on their return from India to their home country. What should be done is, there is a separate concept of the customs regulations that should be followed, and that is, follow the procedure for import of goods with a declaration or undertaking that you are going to take it back out of the country on your return. For this purpose, what Riya can do is, when coming here, she should get all the jewellery and ornaments she is carrying with her duly appraised in the form of a valuation certificate. It can also be accompanied by pictures giving details of the weight and value, either of the gold or even in case of diamonds or precious stones. And on arrival in any airport or seaport in India, the best thing to do is go to the customs officer, tell them that you are carrying this jewellery with the proper documentation. You have come here for a wedding. Try to keep an evidence in regard to that, the wedding invite or something like that, and impress on the officer that you wish to take this back on your return. The officer will use his discretion in either making an endorsement on your passport or documentation, or maybe, if the circumstances so call for, ask you to give some bond or undertaking. But in any case, you will not be required to pay duty.
Okay.
You can bring in this, and while you are going back, you can take it. You have to satisfy that you are taking the same items back which were brought in. Now this, many NRIs, Chami, are not aware.
Yes.
What they do is, they have these gold or jewellery in their baggage. The 20 and 40 gram rule is violated, and if the customs authorities catch hold of you, they would say that you are illegally importing this jewellery. So the best thing to do in all such situations is to go through the red channel, meet the concerned customs officer, declare it, put the necessary documentation, and go forward.
Okay.
If this is taken care of, there should be no problems.
This is all you wanted to know this time, Neel and Riya. Are you happy?
That was real cool.
It was so good to know and understand.
Neel, let's pack up and go. I'm so excited about this trip to India.